introduce you to the structural equation modeling. Then I will uh, take one of the example to explain you how you yourself can conduct the structural equation modeling and where it will be used, where how you actually perform the structural equation modeling. And we will do the structural equation modeling by using the software called Jamovi, which is an open source software, and you can also install itself on your system so that you will get to know. So first of all, let's understand what is a structural equation modeling. So you must have heard about you might have heard about structural equation modeling. You might not have heard about structural modeling. So I would explain you what it is, uh, where you can use the structural equation modeling and how you use the structural equation modeling. First of all, think of a simple relationship between two variables. For example, x and y. We generally use regression analysis for explaining such a simple relationship between two variables x and y. But we if we have more than one variable or more than two variable, then we use multiple regression. But these are all simple relationships. But sometimes we have like relationship among the constraints that cannot be measured. For example, behavior. You cannot directly measure the behavior as a variable. You cannot measure confidence. These are the variables that can be measured by some other variables which we call as measurable variable, and the variables that cannot be measured directly are called unmeasured variables. So in SEM model, we try to analyze these kind of relationships that are direct as well as indirect relationship among the multiple variables. So in terminology, we can define structural equation modeling as a number of different multivariate techniques into one model fitting framework which has measurement theory, factor or latent variable analysis, path analysis, regression analysis, or simultaneous equations. What is structural equation modeling? We have in structural equation modeling, we have the observed variables as well as what is structural equation modeling? In structural equation modeling, we have observed variables as well as we have latent variables. As I have already told you, the latent variables are such as intelligence, satisfaction, which cannot be measured directly. So for measuring the latent variables and relations among these latent variables, we formulate some observed variables like the statements which will measuring these variables such as intelligence and satisfaction, which is not directly measured. So we have observed variables and we have latent variables. I will explain you in detail in further slides what are these variables and how we actually formulate observed variables for measuring the latent variables. Moving forward, what do you why do we use SEM? We use SEM for testing the complex theories, for accounting of measurement errors, for model indirect effects, and for combined measurement and structure. You can see that in this figure that we have a simple regression model as well as we have a complex model. Where we have a complex model, we have to use the SEM because the simple relationships can be measured through regression analysis, where we tend to measure the direct relationship between two or more than variables. But in a complex system of relationship where we have direct as well as indirect effect of latent variables on one another, we have to use the same structural equation modeling for measuring these kind of relationships. when do when should we use SEM? You can see that we can use for studying
Sir, is it possible to shift on a presentation mode?
to increase the size. Okay.
Yes, yes.
So when should we use SEM for studying the constructs that aren't directly measurable, like motivation and well-being? These are the variables that you cannot measure it directly. We have to form the observed variables for them. These observed variables are basically the statements which are measured on Likert scale, on a scale of 1 to 5, or on a scale of 1 to 10. Uh, then by these statements we try to figure out what are the uh, measurable, like motivation. We formulate the some of the uh, statements, then we will measure the motivation and well-being. When the measurement error are explicitly modeling to avoid the biased estimates, testing the complex theories and models, computing competing models, or assessing global differences, longitudinal design. These are the some of the uses that where we apply structural equation modeling. We have number of applications in social science domain for structural equation modeling, basically the domain of behavioral economics or behavioral science, where we use structural equation modeling. The core concepts in SEM, we have the observed variables such as the items and the scores, which can be observed directly, the latent variables, which are observed through observed variables. Then we have the exogenous variables and we have endogenous variables. Basically, these are the dependent and independent variables that we tend to measure. Then we have the two components in SEM structural equation modeling. We have the measurement model and we have the structural model. In measurement model, what we study the relationship between the latent variable and observed variables. For example, you can see that here we have latent variable and we have observed variable. The relationship between latent and observed variables is called the measurement model, and the relationship among the latent variables is called the structural model. So in measure, first we will formulate a measurement model, then we will move on to structural model, because in measurement model we capture the variation in the construct, which is the latent variable, through observed variables, and then we will move on to formulating a model which will connect these latent variables through direct or indirect relationship. If anyone has any confusion, please feel free to ask. I have just explained you what is a structural model and what is a measurement model.
So can you explain once again on SEM? Because I have joined little late. I'm sorry.
Okay, I will repeat it in brief. So basically, structural equation modeling is a modeling where we try to connect the complex relationship and try to measure the complex relationship among the various variables, through formulating a path diagram where we have two models. First, we will try to build a measurement model, then we will build a structural model. What is measurement model? Measurement model is basically the relationship where we try to measure the latent variables such as behavior or confidence, which cannot be measured directly. These are measured through some of the statements. These relationship between observed variable and latent variable is called as measurement model, and the relationship which is uh, which is among these latent variables is called the structural equation modeling, which is the structural model. So combining the measurement model and structural model, we call it as structural equation modeling. If you have
Hello, sir.
understood.
Sir, I have a doubt, sir.
Okay.
Could you give an example for the previous slide, sir? You were saying the relationship between the observed, latent, exogenous, and endogenous model. So one
Oh.
example to differentiate the observed, latent, exogenous, that can help
Okay.
us.
Okay.
Yes. Hello,
So,
sir. Am I
hello.
audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Sir, if you can correlate difference between suppose with example regression and SAM with some example, then it will be easy for us to understand. Thank
Okay,
you, sir.
okay. This is my example sheet that I have planned to explain you in further, but let me explain it right away. So you can see that we have the variables called as environmental knowledge, perceived value, purchase intention, motivation, buying behavior, awareness, and product knowledge. These are the variables which cannot be measured directly. For example, we cannot scale what is your environmental knowledge. For example, you are the participants. If I ask you what is your environmental knowledge, you cannot answer this question because this
Excuse
cannot
me,
be.
sir.
Yes,
So
please.
sometimes we also call
Sir,
this construct as a dimension.
sir,
Yes, please.
yes, sir. I
Please.
wanted to ask is the qualitative data and latent this variable is same or different? Qualitative variable.
You can compare it with the qualitative variable because these are not measured directly on a scale of 1 to 10, but we formulate some of the questions that can be that can be used to measure these variables. So these can be called as qualitative variable. So
Sir, we have a scale, and we have a scale which can be made up of multiple dimensions, in which you are saying here as a construct. So
okay.
these are constructs are the latent variables that you are talking about, and these items are the ones which are going to define it through the Likert scale. That is how it is going to be. Is the statement correct?
Yes, you are absolutely correct. So, I think I'm clear. In what you are saying is absolutely correct. So these are the variables which we call as latent variable that is named as environmental knowledge, perceived value, purchase intention, motivation, buying behavior, awareness, and product knowledge. These are 7 latent variables that for measuring these latent variables, we have formulated some of the questions that will be measured on a Likert scale of 1 to 5, and these are the sources from where I have taken these statements, and defining these statements will ultimately define the latent variable, and then these relationship between the latent variable and these statements is called as the measurement model, and the relationship among these latent variables will be called as structural model, and measuring all of these will be called as structural equation modeling. So I think now you have cleared what is measurement model and what is structural model. If anyone has any doubt, please feel free to ask. Otherwise,
Please explain one more time, sir.
Hello,
okay.
sir.
Hello.
Sir, these are the what I understood. These are the constructs which you explain.
Yes.
So if we study relationship between among inter constructs, so it is structural model
Okay.
and measurement model. Is that correct? What I understood, and measurement model also you can reflect in a simple way, sir.
So when we are studying the relation, when we are measuring these construct through these statements, for example, for environmental knowledge, we have the statement, 4 statements. If we are studying these relationship, we are formulating a measurement model. For
Okay.
example, for environmental knowledge, we have 4 statements, and we will collect the data. For example, I am aware of the environmental impact caused from cultivation of raw materials of garments. For example, anyone can answer on a scale of 1 to 5 what is his awareness about the environmental impact caused from the cultivation of raw materials from garments. So when we collect the data on these statements, and we will try to reflect if these statements are capable of measuring the environmental knowledge, then these relationship will be called as measurement model. So in further slides, when I will actually perform the measurement model, I will explain which some, after collecting the data, we sometimes find out that some of the statements are not able to explain the variation in the latent variable. Then we may have to drop these statements as well. So first of all, we have to first look in the theory to actually know about which statements can be actually used to measure the latent variable. Then we will formulate a measurement model. Then after formulating the measurement model, for example, we have four statements for environmental knowledge, for four statements for perceived value, four statements for all of these. I have formulated four statements for each of these variables. You can have more than four statements. You can have less than four statements. It is not mandatory to have four statements. But for structural equation modeling, it is safe to have more than three statements. Then it will be a more reliable analysis, and you can do the same, because sometimes you have to drop some of the statements if the explaining power of these statements are lower than the threshold limit. I will tell you in further slides what is the threshold limit, where you have to drop these variables, and what all precautions you have to take. So I think now you have clear what is measurement model and what is structural
Sir,
model. Yes,
sir,
please.
sir, you said that we should have approximate four, it is good for the study. But can we have the combination of the variables like latent and endogenous together? Or if we have latent, then we should have all the latent totally.
I think you are confused with the latent and endogenous. You have called endogenous.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
there was something called as endogenous and exogenous variables. I'll request you first, please cover that also, so that such a doubt does not arise.
I will explain you what is endogenous and what is exogenous.
And
Endogenous
sir,
is
you can use synonyms like like dependent,
okay.
independent, external.
I will use it. So I have planned to explain you in the further slides, but let me explain it right away. So endogenous is the dependent variable. It is the dependent variable which is explained by the independent variables, which are exogenous. As the name explain it, endo means within the model, which is determined within the model, and exo means the latent variables which are determined outside the model, and it will affect the dependent variable, which is the endogenous model, which is the endogenous variable. So in this model, we have seven latent variables. Among these seven latent variables, we have one as the final dependent variable and other as exogenous variables, which will affect the dependent variable. Uh, for example,
In this, is the purchase intention endogenous and balancer exogenous?
okay, I will show you which one is endogenous and which one is exogenous. So for this particular SEM model, I have formulated the research topic, the influence of environmental knowledge, awareness, and perceived value on consumers' buying behavior, a structural equation modeling approach with the mediating role of motivation and purchasing intention. So,
Buying behavior is dependent variable, sir.
so here you have to focus on this. This consumer buying behavior is the dependent variable here. Environmental knowledge, awareness, and perceived value are the exogenous variable which will affect and explain the consumer buying behavior. And here we have the role of motivation and purchasing intention as a mediating variable. So I think from here you have cleared what is endogenous and what is exogenous, and which one is dependent and which all are independent variables. We generally have less number of dependent variables, because it is the variable that is explained by the other variables. So in this example, we have consumer buying behavior as dependent variables, which can also be called as endogenous variables, and environmental knowledge, awareness, and perceived value are the exogenous variables or the independent variables, which will ultimately affect and explain the consumer buying behavior.
Yes, sir. Understood. Clear.
Okay. So moving forward to the slides.
So can you just show that Excel sheet that you had shown once again for a second?
Okay. Okay.
So here, all these constructs which are there are a part of that, because these are what are going to come ultimately in the SEM.
Yes, and these are the variables that I will show you how to analyze these variables. I have collected the data. I have actually, this is the example data, not collected from participants. These are for only the demonstration purpose. So I will show you how to perform this analysis.
Sir,
First of all,
these constructs include moderation and mediation variables also, na?
yes, yes,
All.
yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So I would move to the slides once more. So these are the two components that we have to understand: the measurement model and the structural model. For example, we have study habits, which is a latent variable. Then we have observed items. Then we have the motivation. Then we have exam scores that can be measured. Then the steps that we have to follow for conducting the structural equation modeling. Then first we have to specify the model from theory. We have to go to the theory to specify the model. Which of these statements can be used to measure the latent variable? That is the part that we get to know from the theory. Then we have to design and collect the data. Then we have to prepare the data for analysis purpose. Then we have to check the normality, outliers, or reliability test. Then we have to estimate the model. We can choose maximum likelihood or robust ML technique for estimating the model. Then we assess the fit measures by chi-square and CFI, TLI, and inspect the residuals. Then we modify the model if required. Then we will report and interpret the structural equation modeling. If we take the example in real world, we have the example of education sector. We have the psychology, health research, or business analysis as well, that where we can use the structural equation modeling for understanding different constructs by different statements. We have so these are the summary of the slides. So these all about the structural equation modeling. I have just explained you what is a structural equation modeling, what is measurement model, and what is a structural model. How we
So can you make it as a slideshow, please?
which slide show? Okay, okay, I will make it. This is the second PPT that I have, in which I will explain you the steps that you have to follow, the threshold limits and other things in brief. Then I will further move to the actual modeling and the PDF that I have prepared for explaining you how you can perform by yourself. So in
Sir,
this, okay.
sir, will you be giving us one example on how to define model from the theory? A small example, if possible, sir.
See, for defining the theory model from theory, you have to first learn the theory. It is not like it is some technique or something. You can formulate your own model by reading by going through the theory part. For example, the motivation. The motivation can be measured from number of statements, that there can be more than 10, 12 statements through which you can measure the motivation. But how, which statement is fruitful in measuring the motivation, this can be known by only by studying the theory. And in every discipline you have different theories for different relationships, so you have to go through the theory for that.
Okay, like literature, LR से मालूम पड़ेगा ना सर ये सब?
Yes,
LR
yes,
से.
you have to
Okay.
go through the literature for knowing which all statements are there and which is useful for your research purpose.
Yes, like Freeman's 1984 stakeholders theory, agency theory, and motivation theory.
Yes,
They
yes,
they need to be connected with the constructs and then statements to be made like that, no sir?
yes, yes, you are absolutely
Okay,
right.
okay, sir.
So,
Thank you.
Yes, yes,
so
please.
as for my research, it is based on tourism. Then we can say that tourist satisfaction will be a latent variable.
Yes, absolutely. If you are measuring tourism satisfaction, then it is
Yes,
a
sir.
latent variable, and as well as it is a final dependent variable that you have to see the relationship with the different exogenous variables, which all exogenous variables are explaining the variation in these tourism satisfaction latent variable.
Okay, sir.
So
Thank you, sir.
tourism satisfaction will be your endogenous variable. So structural equation modeling, practical publication ready workflow that that includes the exploratory factor analysis, reliability check, confirmatory factor analysis, and the full structural equation modeling estimation and interpretation. So in this particular PowerPoint presentation, I will explain you what is instrument design and sampling, what is data entry and cleaning, what is reliability test, what is confirmatory factor analysis, and interpretation and publication of the structural equation modeling. So design a robust questionnaire. First of all, you have to formulate the questionnaire in the form of statements measured through Likert scale. So you have to go through the literature. For that, you have to select the items. Then you have to decide the sampling size. Generally, the sample size is more than 200 because it is a model that requires a large sample size. So below 200, that cannot be fruitful to run the structural equation modeling. So you have at least more than 200 sample size. It will be very fruitful if you collect more than 300, but 200 is the benchmark that you have to consider. For pilot testing, you can choose between 30 to 50 sample size. Then we have data importing, coding, and initial checks that we will perform shortly in Jamovi software. Then we have to perform the essential checks, and then we have the steps that we have to follow in Jamovi. Then we have exploratory factor analysis that is used to explore the relationship among these constructs. Then we have the reliability and skill refinement, where we have the threshold limit of zero point 0.7 for alpha and zero point 0.8 for omega. And we have the reporting as well. Then we have exploratory factor analysis, confirmatory factor analysis, estimate and fit measures. These are the steps that we have to follow while doing the structural equation modeling that I will explain you in further slides. These are the confirmatory factor analysis, where we have, uh, as I have already told you, we should have at least 3 indicators per latent variable. Then we have the estimated choice, we have the modification, and for this is the about full structural equation modeling, the path analysis between these constructs. Then we have to make a report check, fit indices, and indirect effect among these variables. This is the steps that we will follow. So let me introduce you to the actual structural equation modeling. So these are the steps that we have to follow. So I think from till this point you are clear with what is a structural equation modeling, the basic of it. So I will directly move to the uh, model that I have formulated for you for the demonstration purpose. Parallelly, we will go through this PDF file as well, but let me take you to the data. So I have already shown you this Excel sheet that we have these 7 latent variables, and for each latent variable we have 4 statements that is used to measure, and this is the raw data that we have collected for from the for these all 7 constructs, and we have about 384 samples that we have collected, and all of these are collected on a Likert scale of 1 to 5, and we have named as PK1, PK2, PK3, PK4. This PK means product knowledge. PK means product knowledge. Here we have 4 statements for PK. We have 4 statements for CA. CA means then we have 4 statements for EA, then we have 4 statements for PV, then MOT. These are the statements that for which we have taken the data. Then I have already calculated the mean value and the standard deviation. First of all, let me tell you what is the use of mean and standard deviation. See, when you are collecting the data, some of the respondents are not interested in answering your questions, and uh, they put for example, they score every statement as 5, or every statement as 1, every statement as 4 or 3, scaling each of the statements on the same number. Then these statements we have to be very careful for analyzing these statements. First, uh, for uh, for analyzing these statements, we calculate the mean value and standard deviation. So we have to for example, I have written down here the quality of data row wise through mean value and through standard deviation. All of those statements for which the mean value is either less than zero point 0.5 or zero point 0.5, or more than 4.5 or 4.5, we have to delete these cases, because these cases are from the respondents who are unengaged in answering your questions, and for also for those statements which have a standard deviation of less than 0.25. So I have calculated the mean value for these statements. So here you can see that. Let me uh, identify those statements which have a value of 5 or less than 0.5. So I have highlighted those statements which are above 4.5. So you can see that statement row number 14, row number 27 and 28. Everyone can see that these are the respondents who have responded in most of the cases. They have responded 5. So we have to delete these statements because they will create a problem of outliers. So these are the statements. You can see that here. For some of the statements, for example, case number 54, here the respondent has responded all these questions as on a scale of 1 to 5. They have he has scaled every statement as 5. So these respondents are called unengaged respondents. If we do not identify these statements and delete these statements, it will create problem while formulating the structural equation modeling.
Sir,
So
what were the limits that you were told about mean less than 0.5 and more than 4.5?
so for mean, we have to delete those statements which are less than 0.5 and which are more than 4.5.
But this is for a 5 Likert scale, na sir? 5-point Likert
Yes,
scale.
yes. This is for Likert scale of 1 to 5. If we
So
have a Likert scale of 1 to 10, then
yes.
we have to consider those statements which are more than 9 and statements which are less than 1. Obviously, no statement will be less than 1 because 1 is the least scale that they have to tick. So nothing will be less than 1. So everything more than 4.5, you have to delete those statements. Understood?
So sometimes it is a 7 Likert scale is also there. Is there some way how to calculate this value?
Uh, Actually, this is not hard and fast rule. You have to identify on for example, on a scale of 1 to 7, you can consider 6.5 as a threshold limit, and you can report these rules in your research paper or thesis, whatever you are working on. So that is not no any hard and fast rule for these.
Sir, when we are calculating limits for Cronbach alpha, RMSE, SRMR, all these are having limits which are already prescribed by certain individuals in papers.
These have the limits, but again, these are not hard and fast rule. For example, some of the sources say that there is a limit of 0.7, some of the calling as it as 0.8, but no one there is no a unique statement which you consider. You have to cite those statements. For example, if you are considering 0.7 as
Understood, sir. We'll cite it. We'll use whatever we are using. We'll cite it.
okay, yes,
Right.
this is
Thank you
my
for
point.
saying it implicitly, sir.
Sir, I think it is a researcher's judgment. Certain things researchers decides and discloses.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Freedom.
Whatever you decide, you have to cite those decisions and from authentic source. So this is just a demonstration. So I am just using 4.5 as a threshold here. So you can choose your based on your research purpose. It's always going to be the research questions that you are formulating, the area in which you are doing the research. So I was,
Document.
yes, please.
So can you share that Word document?
This one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. On the chat box so that we can just see
Sir,
from there also.
sir, will you be sharing PPT so that it will be, like
This
for us?
document is enough. We can just open it.
The video, this all session video will be available on YouTube, so you can go through these videos wherever you
Sir, but
need.
sir, but please share the PPT after the session in the WhatsApp group or email us.
Okay, I will talk to sir about that.
Yes,
If
because it would be helpful for us so that we can see and make notes of this SEM model.
Sir,
okay, okay.
the benefit of this is already is concise, sir. It for a researcher, it is very good. We just have to refer to these, and then we can just go ahead with our own research. Otherwise, keep
Okay,
searching.
okay.
Could you please tell us that how to calculate this Cronbach alpha? Because sir, there are also some students who have just taken admission in PhD. Like sir, it's 4 to 5 months since when I got enrolled into a university. So sir, I don't even know basics also.
So I will tell you how to calculate the Kornberg alpha. For example, I was already telling about you that these are the threshold limits that we generally refer to it. For example, sometimes we consider zero point 0.8 as threshold, sometimes we consider zero point 0.7 as threshold. It all depends on the your research purpose. So I will tell you how to calculate these parameters in Jamovi. First of all, I was just telling you where you have to be very careful while analyzing these collected data. So I was just telling you how to check the row wise statements. So
Sir, are we assuming that we have already done the reverse coding and put the things here, or do we take it as complete raw data?
this is complete raw data. I will explain you step by step
Okay, sir.
what you have to be very careful before starting the analysis part. So first of all, I was explaining you the row wise quality data. So for that, we I have highlighted these cases which are more than 4.5. Now I will also highlight those cases which have a standard deviation of less than 0.25. So for that, I will go to conditional formatting, highlight the cases less than. I will choose less than. So these are the cases where we have, for example, you can see that the case number 10, we have a respondent who has responded all of the questions as 3. These can also be deleted. So then we have the case number like 27, who has a standard deviation of 0. So these all are cases where we have to be very careful before start doing our analysis. So right away, I will delete these statements. I'm just showing you. So let me select all these cases one by one. Meanwhile, if you have any query, please feel free to ask. I'm just selecting the cells that I have to delete.
Sir, we'll assume that you have deleted them, sir. Request to proceed because lots of grounds to cover.
Okay.
So this data has been collected through questionnaire.
Actually, I have made this data hypothetically. This is not the data that I have collected. This is for the demonstration purpose. So I have actually used AI for generating this data for only the demonstration purpose. You can collect your data
Okay,
through
okay.
primary survey.
Sir, there is a thing called as content validity before we have to go in for this making of a scale. So I believe that we have already finished with that, and now we are on to a the data.
That part, I have not covered that
You have
part.
not covered, no? That we assume that we have already done that.
Yes, we have already assumed that
Okay, sir.
because it will be not possible to
Yes, yes,
conduct
sir.
all those things.
Understood, sir.
Okay. So
Sir, is it always necessary that primary data are considered good than secondary? For
No,
example,
there is no such rule. If
yeah,
you can get the data on secondary sources, you can use that. There is no there is no rule. If you want some data that is not present there, you have to go for the primary data. Otherwise, it is if it is available on the forum, that you can use that data.
yeah. Sir, SAM is usually done for primary data, na? It's applied on primary data,
Uh,
SAM analysis.
it is not like that. If you
Okay,
have the data available on according to your research purpose, then
okay.
it can be
Possible.
used. It can be
Okay.
used for
Secondary also.
yes, yes.
Sir, one context, say for example, merger of public sector banks, and I want to survey like primary data from
Yes.
deposit holders,
Okay.
from customers, from professionals who have bank accounts, and also from businessmen. So three stakeholders, their
Okay.
transactions with bank pre and post merger, their
Okay.
experiences. Now if I ask them, do you think that the performance of bank has improved post merger? Now
Okay.
the stakeholder may not be having any exact idea about financial performance, and still they point out on Likert scale any response 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, improved or not improved or fully disagree, like that. So
Okay.
is that real picture will come out? Sometimes I doubt, because primary stakeholders may not be having
The
exact
knowledge
idea.
about that. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So
Is that
you have
how to
it will.
deal with the such situation?
So, first of all, you are collecting the data from those who do not have the idea about the. So you are just collecting the. You have to report that you are what you are doing. For example, if you are collecting the data from those who do not have the knowledge about the actual scenario, so you have to report that you are collecting the data just for from the stakeholders uh, about their uh, uh, for example, their what they thought about that.
Perception, just
Yes,
perception.
yes. It is not actual what is happening there. It is just their viewpoint or their opinion about
Okay.
the real scenario.
So then reality will not come out. So is that justified? I don't think it is just justified just for
If
the
your
purpose of
purpose, if your purpose is to uh, uh,
reality, to measure
if your
reality.
purpose is for the reality, you do not you should um, not collect the data from um, those peoples. But
Okay.
if your purpose is to portray uh, the
Perception.
perception of those respondents, that you can go for the uh,
Okay.
respondents.
Good, good.
So
Thank you,
I
sir.
have
Thank you.
just deleted all those cases which have a mean value of more than 4.5 or standard deviation of less than 0.25. Then I will import this data in Jamovi. I hope you may be aware of Jamovi. If you are not, let me tell you a brief about this. This is the software which is built up on the which is a um, based on the R software. So if you do not have this software, you can simply go to the Google, type Jamovi software. You can install it in your system as well. For this is the interface of the Jamovi software. Here we have the option of module. As soon as you install this software, you do not have the option of SEM. So if you want to install this SEM option in Jamovi, you have to go to modules and Jamovi library. And here you can type SEM, and in the search box, you can type SEM and you will get this and you can install it. I have already installed it. That is why it is showing the installed. So this is how you can add the module in the Jamovi. So Let me
So
import.
we cannot do this SEM in our software or some other software. For SEM, we have to install
No, no,
Jamovi
it
only.
is not. No, you can do the SEM analysis in, for example, in SPSS as well. Uh,
Okay.
in SPSS, we have SPSS MOs. Okay,
Okay.
not the SPSS statistics. We have
Okay.
SPSS MOs where you can do that. Then we have PLS as well. Jamovi, why I'm using Jamovi? Because it's a open source software. The SPSS MOs is not open source software, but you can have a 1 month subscription free use of that. So you can perform that analysis there as well. It is very
Sir, not
easy.
1 month, sir, 1 week. It's 7 days.
Previously, it was 1 month. It might have reduced to 1 week as well. So that you have to.
Okay, so Jamovi is preferred because it is open access. Okay.
This is open access and it is user friendly as well.
Okay. Okay,
So,
Chintan. Thank you.
sir,
So
can we use JASP for the SAM?
uh, I might not be sure about that. You have to look for that whether
I
it
was
can be.
actually using it.
Jamovi is real time. SPS is not real time, sir.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So let me open the data file. So you have to click on open. You can browse and so it is the data. We can see that. Okay, I think the data was, I have deleted, but it is not saved. Let me save it first. Because it is still showing the row as 384. So let me first, I have saved the data. Then I will again open the data. Meanwhile, the data is getting open. Let me explain you the steps that we are going to perform here. So after deleting the rows that have a mean value of more than 4.5 and a standard deviation of less than 0.25, then we will identify the missing data with, if any missing data is present. If you have the missing data, what you can do that, either you can delete those rows or you can fill up the missing data by imputation method. Then we will detect the outliers. If there is any outlier present in our data, then we will check the normality. Then we will check the multicollinearity. These all steps are the steps involved in data screening step. This is the pre-stage procedure that we have to follow before going to the measurement model. Then we have to do a reliability analysis, and under reliability analysis we will consider the Cronbach alpha and McDonald omega. McDonald omega is conducted for the composite reliability, and alpha is used for the reliability analysis. And then we can move on to the measurement model, which is our confirmatory factor analysis. So the software is now ready. Let me load the data once again.
So, sir, we assume that we have done the data cleaning and then come here.
Yes, we have just done one step, that is delete the rows, and then we will identify the missing data if any. Then we will see the outliers. Then we will move on to the confirmatory factor analysis. So this is the data. Here you can see that these are all the variables that are measured on a Likert scale on 1 to 5. So first of all, I would like to identify if there is I do not have any missing variable. If you have any missing variable, you can go to explore descriptives for identifying the missing variables, missing values for any variable. For after going to descriptive, you have to choose these variables one by one. So I have chosen these variables. It will give me the description of these variables, where you can find out if there any missing variable. So it will prepare the descriptives for these variables. So here you can see that. Let me increase the size. So this is the result window. You can see that these are the variables. Here it is pk1, pk2 in this manner. Okay. So we have 0 missing variables. You can see that 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So here no missing variable are there. So we can proceed further to the outlier detection. So outliers are those which are, for example, if anyone has scored, has ticked more than 5 or less than 1, will be called as outlier here. So there is no one who has ticked more than he. In this description window itself, you can find out the outlier, or else you can also do one more thing, that is in go to statistics, you can click on outliers. You can see that after going on statistics, I have just clicked on outliers. If anything which is disturbing your data will be identified here. More, you can choose to have like 10 most extreme values, which are highest and lowest, and it will identify those values which are on extreme level, maybe higher or maybe lower. So for each of these variables, for example, for extreme value for pk1, extreme value for pk2, you can identify these variables, which all these variables have a extreme value. For example, we have row number 14, 19, 26, 32, 35, 45. These are the rows for which we have the value of 5. These are the rows for which we have the value of 1. You don't have to be worried about these variables, because these are within the limit of 1 to 5. If any variable is exceeding those limits, then you have to uh, check these rows, and you might have to delete these rows before going to the analysis part. So this is the way in which you can check the outliers. You can see that all of these are under the limit of 1 to 5. So this is not a problem.
Sir, but please tell me that how are we going to set the limit? Like how we will come to know that this much will be the limit? Like you said right now, it should be 5 or 1. Then it would be our outliers. Then how, in our case, then how are we going to set it as a limit?
Okay. You have collected the data, as I have collected the data on a Likert scale of 1 to 5. So it is obvious that everyone has to score on a scale of 1 to 5. If anyone has scored below or above that, then it will be a outlier. So in your
So
case, if you
how will somebody score if you're telling them to score from between 1 to 5? Everybody will score between 1 to 5 only.
okay, that is the case if you have collected the data uh, um, like on a Google form, or you have mandated that them to choose. If you have not mandated them, for example, if you are collecting the data on a
Manually through written
annually, you are
sheets.
collecting the data and distributed the seats, they might score you on a more than 5, or if you are collecting the data on a scale of 1 to 10, they might score 0 or something like that. So in that case, you have to be.
Because, sir, here seeing this 1 and 5, you have to have a normal distribution of a data. And in a normal distribution, 1 and 5 are natural codes that they'll also be there. So they can't be called as outliers.
Yes, these are not outliers. I'm telling you that these are not outliers, but there might be a case where someone has ticked 6 or 7 or 8, then it have to be considered before going to the measurement model. So this is the way you can detect the outliers, and also you can detect if there is any missing value. So under descriptives, you can do these analysis. So let me move on to the next step. That is the normality test, where you have to see the skewness and kurtosis. So for skewness and kurtosis, you can click on skewness and kurtosis under the statistics. You can see that this is the statistics. I have just opened this and ticked on skewness and kurtosis, and it will give me the value of skewness and kurtosis for all of these variables. So the threshold limit here I have mentioned is skewness. For skewness, it should be uh, 2, and for kurtosis, it should be 7 or less than 7. Ideally, it should be 1 for skewness and 3 for plus or minus for kurtosis. So these are the values for skewness and kurtosis. This is the way you can find out the value of skewness and kurtosis. If there are some variables for which the skewness and kurtosis is above the threshold limit, then you might have to delete these variables or merge the variables with the other variable.
So in skewness and kurtosis, the threshold will be set on our own. Matlab, there is no rule.
There is rules, but there is no hard and fast rule for skewness and kurtosis, because these are the ideal limits, but they can be beyond that ideal limit, but should not exceed the threshold of 2 and 7. Otherwise, it will be not normal data. Then you have
Okay,
to you might have to delete these statements or variable for
which
Sir,
are
making the.
items.
exceeding the
You need
limit.
to delete the items.
Yes, if it for remedial measures, you have to delete the cases, or you might go for the merger of the variables if it is on extreme level. So this is how you perform the normality test, and also you can perform the multi-collinearity test. I will explain you in the measurement model itself how you perform the collinear test among the constructs. So this is the descriptive part. So I would close this down and move on to the measurement model. First of all, before measurement model, I will tell you how to check the reliability. So for that, I think here till this point, everything is clear.
Yes,
Excuse me,
sir.
sir.
Sir,
Okay. Yes,
Excuse
please.
me, sir.
Yes, please.
Is it audible?
Yes, yes, audible.
Okay, my doubt is actually this SEM is how helpful for academics. How can we use that especially for academics or educational purposes?
For educational purposes, I didn't get your question actually.
Okay. You said like with this SEM analysis, we can get this relationship, we can analyze this like this complex variables. But how
Yes.
can we use this in academic purpose, like with variables, like the students' evaluation, performance, like that?
You can formulate your own research problem. For example, if you are measuring the perception of students, how they are, their feelings, their motivation, what motivates them, and such variables. For example, the school going children's, from you can collect the data about their perception about the college, for example, higher education, for example, their teachers, their education syllabus, and other variables. And you can do your structural equation modeling on them as well. It basically based on what purpose you are going for.
Sir, can I add?
Yes,
This
yes, please.
this
Yes, please.
can be this can be used for finding out why but students particularly choose a discipline like HRM specialization or accounting specialization. What motivates them? That kind of study is also possible.
Okay,
Yes,
fine. Then
yes,
it's basically based on like survey like that. Is it right?
yes, yes,
Sir,
yes, please.
sir, like suppose we distributed the questionnaire and the data which